In the last class, we had started investigating piecewise constant potentials, and I had told you that if the energy of the particle is more than the value of the potential, which is a constant over some range of x, then the solution is a superposition of two such waves, e to the power ikx and e to the power minus ikx, with two different coefficients a and b, and k is equal to square root of 2m e minus v by h cross squared. Now, if the energy is less than the potential, then the solution is a superposition of two such functions. These are exponentially decaying and exponentially increasing functions, e to the power rho x and e to the power minus rho x, where rho is equal to square root of 2m v minus e by h cross squared. Here e is less than v. This exponentially decaying and exponentially growing solution can also be written as e to the power ikx, where you should keep in mind that k is now minus I rho. So this is a kind of notation we shall be using even to express the exponentially growing or decaying wave functions, but you should keep in mind that k in this context is minus I rho. So the bottom line of these two situations is that if the energy is more than the potential, this is the classically allowed region for the particle, the wave function oscillates. If the energy is less than the potential, which is a classically not allowed region, disallowed region, then the wave function exponentially rises or decays, has an exponential behavior. So this was the behavior of the wave function in a situation where the potential is constant. Now we want to put together various bits of constant potentials to describe some realistic situations. So the next step was a situation where the potential had a step. So there is a value v1 to the left and a value v2 to the right. And we were matching the boundary conditions at the point A where the potential suddenly changes from one constant value to the other. So on the left side, in the region 1, the wave function was psi 1x is equal to a1 e to the power I k1x plus b1 e to the power minus I k1x. And on the right hand side, in the region 2, it was the same kind of expression, but the coefficients were different, a2 and b2, and the wave number also was k2 and minus k2 here instead of k1. And we wanted to match the wave function, the boundary conditions. So the wave function should match at the point of discontinuity in the potential. So the wave function psi 1a should be equal to psi 2a. In addition, the first derivative of psi 1 should be the same on both the sides at this point a. So psi 1 prime a should also be equal to psi 2 prime a. And we found that these boundary conditions, these two conditions, gave us relations between a1, b1 and a2, b2, so that if you specify either a1 and b1, let us say you specify a1 and b1, these boundary conditions fix the value of a2 and b2. Or if you specify a2, b2, then it will fix a1, b1. And we had also worked out the relations implied by the boundary conditions. And I had worked out what a2 was in terms of a1 and b1. And this was the relation we had worked out in the last class. And I had asked you to work out what b2 will be in terms of a1 and b1. And this is the expression. So this relation between the coefficients a2, b2 and a1, b1 can also be expressed in this fashion. a2, b2 is equal to some real constant c into a phase e to the power I delta 1 into a1. So this is a matrix multiplying this column matrix. So this c, which is half 1 plus k1 by k2 into e to the power I delta 1, where delta 1 is the phase k1 minus k2 into a, where a is the point of discontinuity. and this multiplies A1, and this d into e to the power minus I delta 2, where delta 2 is the phase over here, K1 plus K2 into A, multiplies B2, B1, and this, so this into this plus this into this gives me A2, and this into this plus this into this gives me B2. So given A1, B1, I can find out A2, B2. Now, so we now want to apply all of this to the following situation. The situation is that there is a potential V naught extending from A to infinity and minus A to minus infinity. The region between minus A to plus A has zero potential. And we want to study a situation where there is a particle whose energy E is less than the value of the potential V naught. So classically, a particle with energy E would be restricted to lie in the range minus A to A. It would just bounce back and forth because it would classically it would not have sufficient energy to move on to any region of X outside A or beyond minus A. In a quantum situation, we have to solve the wave function in all of these regions and then match the boundary conditions and see what it implies. This problem is a one-dimensional finite potential well, or it is also called the square potential well. So we have already seen that in the region minus A to A, the wave function is expected to oscillate. In the region minus infinity to minus A, the wave function will have an exponential behavior, and from A to infinity also it will have an exponential behavior. So the curve over here, which we expect shows the expected behavior of the wave function. It should die away at minus infinity, should die away at plus infinity, rise exponentially to minus A, and then oscillate, and then again die away. These boundary conditions are expected to impose certain restrictions on the value of the momentum, value of k, the wave vector, which you are allowed to have, because you have to match the boundary conditions at these 2 points. And this will put some restrictions on the energies which are allowed. So let us now work out the mathematics, let us match the boundary conditions and see what kind of energies, what are the energies which are allowed. So the wave function in the region 1 is A1 e to the power I kx, k1x plus B1 e to the power minus k1x, where you should also remember that k1 is actually an imaginary number because it has to exponentially decay away on this side. So k1 is actually minus I rho. And this represents a part of the wave function which, as x goes to minus infinity, will decay away, will go to 0. This will blow up as x goes to minus infinity, because this will be e to the power minus rho x. And we don't want the wave function to blow up at minus infinity. We want a situation where the particle is confined within this. So B1 has to be 0. The boundary condition that the wave function should not blow up at minus infinity tells us that B1 has to be 0. In the region minus A to A, the wave function is given by psi 2, which is A2 e to the power I k2x plus B2 e to the power minus I k2x. And k2 is a real number, so it will be an oscillating function. In the region 3 over here, to the right, the wave function again exponentially should dies away because the energy is less than the potential, and the wave function psi 3 can be written as A3 e to the power I k1x. The values of k in this region and this region are the same because the energy and the potential are both the same. So e to the power I k1x plus B3 e to the power minus I k1x. As x goes to infinity, this part of the wave function will blow up. So this implies that A3 should be equal to 0. So the boundary conditions imply that B1 should be equal to 0, A3 should be equal to 0, and we have to match all of these coefficients at minus A and plus A. So let us now match the coefficients at minus A. And we want to express A1 and B1 in terms of A2 and B2, which is the reverse of this situation where we have expressed A2 and B2 in terms of A1 and B1. Here we want to express A1 and B1 in terms of A2 and B2. This can be easily obtained from this relation by just replacing K1 by K2 throughout. So if we replace K1 by K2 and K2 by K1 throughout, we can use this same relation to relate, same kind of relation to relate A1, B1. So we want to relate A1, B1, write this in terms of A2, B2, and this, the coefficients here can be obtained by just replacing K1 by K2 and K2 by K1 throughout. And we are imposing the boundary conditions at the point minus A. So we have to also put minus A over here. So let us now write down the relation between A1, B1 and A2, B2. So the relation between A1, B1 and A2, B2 is as follows. A1, okay, actually we did not write down the full relation. We have to just impose the boundary condition that B1 should be equal to 0. So let us just put the boundary condition that B1 over here is equal to 0. That is all we need. A2 and B2 could be arbitrary right now. So we want to impose the boundary condition B1 equal to 0. So what does this imply? This implies that B1, so what is B1? B1 will be this term into this plus this term into this. So let me write that down. So we just want B1 equal to 0. This is equal to C into e to the power I, and I have delta 2. Delta 2 is K1 plus K2 at the point minus A now, plus into A2 plus D e to the power minus I, delta 1 e to the power minus I, and now I have K2 minus K1 into minus A B2. So this is the relation between A2 and B2 which we obtain from the fact that B1 has to be 0. Let us now simplify this relation and write B2 in terms of, this implies that B2 is equal to minus C by D and e to the power I K1 into minus A, e to the power I K1 into minus A cancels out from both sides. What we have over here is e to the power I K2 into minus A, e to the power I K2 into plus A. So if I take this onto that side, this will give me e to the power minus 2I K2 into A2. We also have to impose the boundary condition at the point A. So now we want to relate A3, B3 to A2, B2 at the point A. A is the boundary between the region 2 and 3. So what have we done? We have applied the boundary condition at this point, the region between 1 and 2, and we have related the coefficients in the region 2 to the coefficients in the region 1. Now we want to apply the boundary conditions at the point A. We want to express A3, B3 in terms of A2 and B2. And we also have to now apply the condition that A3 is equal to 0. The wave function has to die down exponentially, not grow exponentially, which implies that A3 has to be equal to 0. So let us see what this implies. So we have to set A3. So we are looking at A3 and B3 now. So we want to now put A3 equal to 0. So let us use the same expression, but now for A3. So what we get is A3 is equal to 0 is equal to C into e to the power I delta 1, where delta 1 is K2 minus K1A into A2 plus D e to the power minus I delta 2, which is minus I K1 plus K2 into A B2. So this is the condition that A3 is equal to 0. We are matching the boundary condition at the point A, and this is what it implies. Let us now again simplify B2 in terms of, B2 in terms of A2. So this tells us that B2 is equal to oh no, there is a, yes, in the relation this should be D, this should be C. In the relation for B, this will be D into A1, C into B1. No, I think better to just go back one step and write it again. So let us do it again. Okay. So B1 equal to 0 implies, let us do it again. B1 equal to 0 implies that D e to the power I delta 2, and delta 2 is K1 plus K2 into minus A into A1 plus C e to the power I A2 plus C into e to the power minus I, and delta 1 is K1 K2 minus K1 into minus A B2 equal to 0. So D into e to the power I, K1 plus K2 minus A plus C into e to the power minus I, K2 minus K1 into minus A, B2 is equal to 0, and A3 equal to 0 implies C e to the power I delta 1 is K2 minus K1 A into A2 plus D e to the power minus I delta 2, and delta 2 is K1 plus K2 A is equal to 0. So this is what we have into B2. Now let us simplify both of these and obtain B2 in terms of A2. So the first one, the first relation tells us that B2 is equal to minus D by C. So this implies this, B2 is equal to minus D by C e to the power I k1 into minus A1 e to the power I k1 into minus A1. So both of them cancel out, and what I have is e to the power I k2 into minus A e to the power I k2 into plus A here, which if I take onto that side will give me e to the power minus 2I k2 into A. And this implies that B2 is equal to minus C by D, and then I have e to the power I k2A, and here I have e to the power minus I k2A. So the whole thing finally gives me e to the power 2I k2A, and the k1 terms cancel out from both sides. So finally we have obtained two relations for B2. This is implied by the boundary condition at minus A. This comes from the boundary condition at minus A. This comes from the boundary condition at A.
So it's K1
into A2. The K1 term cancels out from both sides, e to the power I K1. Okay. So these are the two relations we have, and then if we divide these two relations, what it gives us is that one is equal to, or let us just equate these two, and then we can simplify it. So what we have is, let us just equate it first, D by C e to the power minus 2I k2A is equal to C by D e to the power I 2 k2A, or what this implies finally is that D by C square is equal to e to the power I 4 k2A. Now let us also put back what is D and what is C. So these are what is C and what is D. So the ratio D is to C can be written as K2 minus K1 by K2 plus K1. So the ratio of D by C is K2 minus K1 divided by K2 plus K1. So this is K2 minus K1, right, K1 minus K2. So this, sorry, K1 minus K2 by K1. Not that it makes a difference because there is a whole square, but let us keep it e to the power I 4 K2A. Now let us also put in the fact that K1 is equal to minus I rho. So this implies that minus I rho minus, let me drop the index 2 for the time being. Okay, let me drop the subscript 2 for the time being because we are going to use rho and k. So minus I rho minus k divided by minus I rho plus k squared is equal to e to the power I 4 ka. K is now k2, k1 is minus I rho. So this is the relation between the rho and k. Now let us see if we can simplify this a little further. So we can get rid of the minus sign from the top, and we can put a minus sign here. So this is further simplified to be k plus I rho k minus I rho whole square is equal to e to the power I 4 k a. So now it is quite straightforward to solve this. Let us say that, let us substitute k is equal to r cos phi, rho is equal to some r is some number, doesn't matter, sin phi. So with this kind of a substitution, this whole thing over here, the numerator becomes e to the power I phi, the denominator becomes e to the power minus I phi. So I have e to the power I phi divided by e to the power minus I phi, whole thing squared is equal to e to the power I 4 k2a. So this tells us that e to the power 4 phi is equal to e to the power I 4 k2a. So this implies that 4 phi, because this is finally e to the power 4 phi, is equal to 4 k2a plus I could have a factor of 2 pi into some n. I could always add 2 pi n to this without changing it. So I have this relation between phi and k2, where phi is defined over here. So this implies that phi is equal to k2a plus n pi by 2. So we have finally obtained the relation between k and rho, and we see that k and rho have to be such that if I write k as some cos phi and rho as sin phi, then phi should be equal to k into a plus n pi by 2.
This is K2.
I am using k and k2. There is only one k which appears in the whole expression now. So k and k2 are the same. Okay. I have made this.
K2 by minus I rho.
I am replacing k1 by minus I rho. Okay, not k2. So there are two different possibilities which arise now. One is if n is odd, and the other one is if n is even. Let us consider the situation where n is even first. So let us keep this over here. So if n is even, what does it tell us? It tells us that rho by k is equal to tan phi, and this is equal to tan ka plus n pi by 2. And if n is even, this whole thing just becomes tan ka plus some multiple of pi. And tan, adding pi to this and evaluating the tan is the same as just evaluating the tan. So this implies that rho by k is equal to tan ka. Substituting back everything, what this implies is that the square root, rho was the square root of v 2m into v minus e by h cross square, and k also had the same factor of 2m by h cross square, so they all cancel out. and what we have left is V minus E by E. The ratio of rho by K is the ratio of V minus E by E. So this is equal to tan, and K is square root of 2m E by h cross square A. So this is the first situation. So we have two kinds of solutions. The first situation, where n is even, implies that the allowed values of energy have to satisfy this equation. So given the potential V naught, the energies which are allowed for the particle have to satisfy this equation. Now let us see, of which also is, okay, it's more convenient to write it in this fashion: E by V naught minus E is equal to cot 2m E by h cross square A. So this, if n is even, then the values of energy which are allowed have to satisfy this equation. Now let us also see what happens if n is odd. So if n is odd, we have to just consider this equation again with this n being odd now. So we have to now look at this n is odd. So we have rho by K is equal to tan Ka plus pi by 2. And then if n is 1, then it is pi by 2, n is 2, it will add another pi to it, etc. It won't make a difference. So tan of Ka plus pi by 2 is nothing but minus cot Ka. So doing the same kind of thing again, which I will not go through, we finally just get square root of E by V naught minus E is equal to minus tan 2m E by h cross square into A. So we have to consider two kinds of situations. There are two possibilities for the solution, and the two possibilities are this, that the ratio of rho by K, if you write it as some tan phi, then phi can either be K into A plus n pi by 2, where n is either even or odd, and if it is even, then it has to satisfy this relation. If it is odd, it has to satisfy this relation. So there may be many solutions for E, some of them for the even case, some for the odd case. You find out all possible solutions. These are all possible values of energy which you can have, and then you can work out the wave function for all these possible values of energy. Now let me okay, let us first consider a situation where, okay, let us first simplify this a little more. Let us introduce some variable epsilon, which is square root of 2m into E by h cross square into A. And let us also define epsilon naught to be 2m V naught by h cross square into A. So epsilon naught increases as I keep on increasing the potential. The deeper is the potential well. The depth of the potential well is defined by the value of V naught. So the deeper is the potential well, the larger is epsilon naught. So the larger the value of V naught, the deeper is the potential well. Okay, so if I keep on increasing V naught, epsilon naught will also increase for a fixed value of A. Now let us write down the two conditions in terms of epsilon. So for odd and for even. Okay. So for even, what do we have? Even, for the even case, we have, so this, for the even case, the final relation is this. And if you use epsilon, if you use psi instead of E, then this whole thing can just be written as xi by square root of xi naught squared minus xi squared is equal to cot xi. This is if it is even, and if it is odd, then we have So now let us look at the possible solutions as we vary xi naught. So xi naught is the square root of 2m into v naught by h cross square into a. It involves both the depth of the potential as well as the width. So let us look at the odd solutions first. So this shows you the various ingredients required to calculate the odd solutions. So we have plotted tan of xi here. So the blue curves over here show tan of xi. And tan of xi is 0 at xi equal to 0, and then it blows up at pi by 2. And then there is a discontinuity here, and again it starts from minus infinity, goes to 0 at pi, and again blows up at 3 pi by 2. And there is a similar kind of behavior on this side. Now we have also plotted xi, the function xi by square root of xi naught square minus xi square with a minus sign. So I have plotted this function over here for different values of xi naught. So let us look at a situation where xi naught is very small. Let us consider a situation where xi naught is less than pi by 2. So if you look at this function is defined in the range xi, okay, this function, let us put it here. So for odd, let us call this function y1 is equal to minus xi by xi naught square minus xi square, and this is only defined in the range xi should be greater than xi naught and less than xi. Because if it exceeds, as xi tends to xi naught, this function goes to infinity. And as it tends to minus xi naught, this function again goes to infinity. So this function is only defined in this range. So we are now considering xi naught to be very small, less than pi by 2. And this is xi naught for a value of 0.5 over here. So when it reaches 0.5, it blows up. So we have to see when this curve over here intersects. So we are looking at this curve over here, this particular curve over here. And we have to see when it intersects tan xi. And we find that the only intersection occurs at 0, xi equal to 0. So this corresponds to a situation where the energy is 0. And the wave function itself also will be 0. So this doesn't correspond to a physical situation. So if xi naught is less than pi by 2, we find that there are no solutions corresponding to odd n. So if xi naught is less than pi by 2, no solutions. So if the value of the potential, and so if this combination of the potential depth of the well and the width of the well, this is the depth V naught and A is the width. If this combination is not sufficiently large, if the potential well is not sufficiently deep, neither is it sufficiently wide, then you don't have any allowed energy bound states for a particle of energy E. So the well has to be sufficiently deep or broad so that you can have some bound state corresponding to odd n. The moment xi naught is greater than pi by 2, so the moment it crosses pi by 2, so let us see this value over here, for example, it corresponds to 2.2. So this is more than pi by 2. The moment xi naught crosses pi by 2, we find that we get two solutions, one on this side over here and the other on the other side over here, negative. So one is a positive solution, the other is a negative solution. So the positive solution and the negative solution both correspond to the same value of energy E. They're just the different roots corresponding to the same value of E. So if the first, so once it crosses pi by 2, you get the first solution. Then if it crosses 3 pi by 2, you get another solution. So if xi naught crosses 3 pi by 2, it has one more intersection with tan xi. Then if it crosses 5 pi by 2, you get another intersection with tan xi, and so forth. So if there are n solutions are there, then xi naught should be greater than n 2n plus half into pi by, or rather 2n plus 1 pi by 2. Or writing it in terms of the potential, what we get is that this implies that square root of 2m v naught by h cross square A should be greater than 2n plus 1 pi by 2, or v naught should be greater than 2n plus 1 square pi by 2 square into h cross square by 2m into by a square here. Right. So if the potential is just more than, so given the value of the potential, you have to find the value of integer n so that the potential just exceeds this number, and then you know how many solutions are allowed. If n is 0, so if the potential is less than half, if n is 0, so the potential is less than half into h cross square, rather pi by 2 squared into h cross square by 2ma, there are no solutions corresponding to odd values of n. Okay. So if v naught is less than pi by 2 squared h cross squared by 2m a squared, there are no solutions. Are no odd solutions. And as we keep on, as the potential increases, you get more and more odd solutions. Now let us look at the even solutions. The even solutions So these are the odd solutions. The even solutions have to satisfy xi by square root of xi naught square minus xi square is equal to cot xi. So this is considered next. So here I have plotted cot xi. The behavior of cot xi is that at xi equal to 0 it is infinite. On the positive side it is positive. On the negative side it is negative. And then as xi increases it falls. And then at pi there is a discontinuity, and again it has the same behavior. So the blue curves over here show you cot xi, and the pink curves show you xi by square root of xi naught square minus xi squared. So we find that even however small you make xi naught, there is going to be one intersection over here between 0 and pi by 2. However small you make it, however small you make xi naught, there is going to be one intersection on the positive side, one on the negative side. And the negative and the positive intersections give the same value of energy, so there is no difference. So however small the potential be, there is going to be one energy state corresponding, which is going to be at least allowed. As you make the potential deeper and deeper, or you increase the width of the potential well, either way, then you can have more and more solutions. So the moment xi naught crosses pi, you get one more solution. Then if it crosses 2 pi, you get another solution. So so let us see what we get for, so for even, for the even case, we have always at least one solution. And if xi naught is greater than, so xi naught should be greater than how much? Let us see. So for every set of pi, every increment of pi, so there should be a pi here, and so then there's, for let us see, for so we want 1, then xi naught could be as small as you want. So it will be n minus 1 pi So if n is 2, then xi naught has to be greater than pi, and so forth. So here also you can work out how many energy, allowed values of energy you will have given the depth and width of the potential well. Okay. Now let us also look at the solutions for odd and even case, for the odd and even case. What does the wave function look like? So let us also look at that. So for the relation between phi and n is given here in terms of k. Okay. Okay, I think we better to postpone this to the next class. So I will stop it here. In the next class, we shall see the form of the wave function when n is even and when n is odd.